Really what's going on now.
Do you guys know that there are almost 200,000 fast food restaurants in the United States? With so many locations, fast food has impacts on almost every aspect of our lives. It has its most impacts on our culture, health, and even our psychology. Today we're going to examine those effects because, as the famous philosopher Socrates says, the unexamined life is not worth living. First, we're going to talk about health. Conventional wisdom is that fast food is bad for your health. Almost everybody, when you think about fast food, thinks about greasy fries, hamburgers, pizza, something that would make you fat or unhealthy in general. That might not necessarily be true, though. A study published by Deborah Vola, Peter Arno, Andrew Marocco, Clyde Schechter, Nancy Solar, Andrew Randall, Catherine Neckerman, and Juliana Mante, called Overweight and Obesity, Can We Reconcile Evidence About Supermarkets and Fast Food Retailers for Public Health Philosophy? In 2013 found no statistically significant association between fast food density and the proportion of residents who are overweight and obese. That's a lot of words. It basically just means more fast food restaurants does not mean more fat people, or like more like fatness, I guess, I don't know. Obviously there's more to health than weight. You can't just say, because you're skinny, you're healthy. That's not how that works. Everybody knows that. But at least some of our conceptions about fast food are misguided. One of the problems with our health could be that we have too few grocery stores in the United States. The same study found a significant negative relationship between supermarket density and obesity and rates of being overweight, which kind of speaks to our nature of blaming things that are there instead of things that ought to be there and are not. The next effect that we're going to talk about is culture. But before we talk about fast food's effect on culture, we have to have a coherent definition of the word. So to that end, I'm going to use the definition of Immanuel Kant, who says, culture is above all unity of artistic styles and all the expressions of the life of a people. Again, that's a lot of fancy words. It basically just means how you portray yourself in art as a society, as a group of people, is who you are. So there are high forms of culture of art, like poetry, Broadway, stuff that's very glitzy and fancy and pretty. But there are also low forms like McDonald's or like how I'm dressed right now. So the effects on our food or any part of something that is necessarily big part of how we have art would be a very big change to our culture. According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture and Economic Research, in 1967, fast food accounted for 14.3% of away from home food expenditures, which is just food that you buy away from your house. And by 1999, it had almost tripled to 35.5%. And that's very important because the way that we eat with each other is really who we are as a people. Cuisine is a very important part of culture. The final part of fast food effects that we're going to be talking about is our philosophy. Fast food affects our philosophy a lot more than you would think. And there's an old Latin saying to explain this called lex orandi, lex credendi, lex vivendi, which translated into English means the way that we worship is the way that we believe, is the way that we live. And it kind of speaks to the idea that not only do our thoughts shape our actions, but because we're kind of lowly beings, we're sort of like animals, our actions also shape our thoughts as well. So the way that you do things affects the way that you think. So given that that's true, how does fast food affect our thinking? Well, one aspect of it is that it erodes our ability to delay gratification. In a study published by Chen Bozon and Sanford E. DeVoe called You Are How You Eat, Fast Food and Impatience, in 2010, researchers told one group of participants to think about fast food and the other group of participants to think about the last time they went to a grocery store. Then the researchers offered both groups money a certain amount if they took it today, and a certain amount if they took it in a delayed time, which is about 1 week later. The group that thought about fast food had to take 17% more, which would be like if they were offered $10, they would have to take $11.70 in a week, as compared to the group that thought about grocery stores, who only would take 11% more, which would be basically $11.10, just from thinking about fast food. So it obviously affects our ability to make rational decisions about very important things like economics. In conclusion, fast food is a huge part of our lives, and it has impacts on our culture, our health, and our philosophy. And we seldom question those effects or how we perceive them. Fast food is not definitively associated with obesity or with being overweight. It has a big cultural influence here and honestly around the world. And it affects our philosophy. In light of new information, let's make informed and better decisions about fast food. Thank you.